Okay, is there an age limit on obeying parents? This is God's Family Plan number 5 of 24. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Jim McCotter. This is God's fifth commandment, Deuteronomy 5:16. Honor your father and your mother as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live long and that it may go well with you. End quote. This is the fifth of God's 10 commandments. In Ephesians 6:1 and Colossians 3:20, there are two verses that say, quote, children, obey your parents, end quote. When most Christians read these verses, they assume it is only talking about young children, but it is not. The fifth commandment of the 10 commandments, from where the Apostle Paul quotes this in Ephesians and Colossians, as with all 10 commandments, was written for adults. The 10 commandments do not exclude young children, but they are all certainly to be applied by adults, from which Paul was quoting. The Greek word for children used in Ephesians and Colossians is toknon. In that New Testament, it is used primarily for adults. For example, Paul uses this 4 times in addressing Timothy in 1 Timothy 1:2 and 18 and 2 Timothy 1:2 and 2:1. And once addressing Titus in chapter 1 and verse 4. The same identical Greek word for young men, Titus and Timothy. There is never a time in the Bible where God gives adults liberty to be disobedient to their parents, unless, of course, it is contrary to Scripture. The Apostle Paul clearly warned adults to not be disobedient to parents. Romans chapter 1, verse 30 through 32 says, quote, I'm reading in part, they're disobedient to parents, and although they know the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, end quote. The Apostle Paul also warns us to avoid adult men who are disobedient to parents in the last days. 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. In part, it reads, but realize this, that in the last days difficult times will come, for men will be disobedient to parents. Avoid such men as these. Jesus also made clear this fifth commandment is for adults when he was accusing the adult Pharisees of violating it in Matthew 15:4. Quote, and why do you, by your traditions, violate the direct commands of God? For God says, honor your father and mother, and anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death. End quote. If anyone would know best how to keep the fifth commandment, Moses certainly would. God gave the commandments through Moses. After God told Moses from a burning bush that he was to go to Egypt to free his people, Moses still went back to Jethro, his father-in-law and surrogate father, to ask his permission to go. In Exodus 4:18, quote, so Moses went back home to Jethro, his father-in-law. Please let me return to my relatives in Egypt, Moses said. I don't even know if they're still alive. Jethro replied, go in peace. End quote. When Moses asked his father-in-law to go back to Egypt, he was 80 years old. Moses knew there never is to be a time that you no longer need to honor and obey your father. Any son or daughter that uses God or church as an excuse to not do what their father or mother think is best, maybe should realize they probably haven't heard from God through a burning bush. Yet Moses still asked for permission. God will never have you miss doing his will to disobey any of his commandments, and certainly not the fifth commandment. The whole book of Proverbs was written for adult sons. Some translations, in some places, use the word child throughout the book of Proverbs, except where it is referring to disciplining a child. The Hebrew word that is always used is ben, B-E-N. This word always refers to adult sons. It is used over 60 times in Proverbs. If you know this, it will change your understanding about son and father relationships. We'll close at looking at just some of the verses in Proverbs. Proverbs 1, 8 through 9. Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They are garland to grace your head, and a chain to adorn your neck. Proverbs 3, 1 and 2. My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart, for they will prolong your life many years and bring you peace and prosperity. Proverbs 4, 1 through 4. Listen, my sons, to a father's instruction. Pay attention and gain understanding. I give you sound learning, so do not forsake my teaching. Take hold of my words with all your heart. Keep my commands, and you will live. Proverbs 4, 10 through 13. Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. When you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. Hold on to instruction. Do not let it go. Guard it well, for it is your life. Proverbs 4, 20 through 22. My son, pay attention to what I say. Turn your ear to my words. Do not let them out of your sight. Keep them in your heart, for they are life to those who find them and health to one's whole body. Proverbs 5, 7. Now then, my sons, listen to me. Do not turn aside from what I say. Proverbs 6, 20 and 21. My son, keep your father's command and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Bind them always on your heart. Fasten them around your neck. Proverbs 7, 1 through 3. My son, keep my words and store up my commands within you. Keep my commands and you will live. Guard my teachings as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Proverbs 10:1. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish son brings grief to his mother. Proverbs 13:1. A wise son heeds his father's instruction, but a mocker does not respond to rebukes. Proverbs 15:20. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish man despises his mother. And finally, Proverbs 23:26. My son, give me your heart and let your eyes delight in my ways.